There's a number of items that you would consider in terms of trying to find the right advisor, and I think that poll question was a good one because it kind of helps me out in terms of thinking about where people are at in terms of MA or PhD, and there's a few different considerations to keep in mind. But there are some common threads that lead through both processes. So for example, you would like to consider the level and type of supervision, the similarity in research interests with a potential advisor, the research methods that they use, and your own thoughts about that. The personality fit is very important. Financial support is also important as well, as that second poll also just indicated. Future plans, this means your future plans as well as your advisor's future plans. And then two things in here that are maybe a little bit different, but one that I call bench strength, and I'll get into it and explain that in just a second. But also the last item is intangibles, and that is just making the call. Now, probably the first thing to start out with in here is the level and type of supervision. And in this process, I would just sit back and take a good look at yourself. Take a hard look at yourself and your potential advisor. So if you're considering 2 or 3 institutions or one institution and maybe 2 or 3 potential advisors there, assess yourself first. What type of a learner are you? Are you the type of person that likes to, that is very curious about things? You pick up books and just kind of learn on your own and you kind of pull things together? Or are you the type of person that needs to attend things all the time and have someone kind of guide you periodically all the time? And I'm not saying that one way is better than the other. They're both fine. There's no question there. It's just that they require a different type of advising. Once you have yourself identified as either one or the other, then seek out a potential advisor that would meet that. And talking to potential advisors or via email or phone conversations or in person, you're looking to see how they go about trying to advise students. Do they just like to touch base with you at a specific milestone in your process, or perhaps at the completion of the literature review, or perhaps as you're drafting your research proposal? Or do they like to keep a closer track on you in terms of weekly meetings, for example, or something like that? That kind of points you and gives you the hint of whether they're more guided learning, or lean towards more guided learning, or lean towards more independent learning. And then try to align yourself accordingly. The one thing you really would like to do as well is to set realistic objectives. And I know that I faced this myself as I started my graduate work, is that I came in and really got a lot of things I'm curious about and interested in, and I want to do a lot of different things, but sometimes we chew off much more than what we can really do. And this is where your advisor will really help you to cut down or pare down the research area to something that is manageable to get done. And this may break your heart and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm hardly doing any part of it. Don't worry about that. You've got a whole career afterwards to figure out all the other little aspects. The key is to do something that's manageable and then to get the program done as well. So realistic objectives for you and looking for your advisor in terms of trying to get through the program, workloads, and also for your advisor, because you want to keep in mind that if you were to put yourself in your advisor's shoes, you're only one aspect of their whole workload. They may have 4 or 5 other graduate students that they are supervising. They also have a full teaching load typically, a heavy research load, their own research, and then they also serve on numerous committees both within the university and in the broader community. So you're one little piece of that bigger puzzle for them, so realistic objectives on both sides is important in there as well. And one other item on this one in here, and this is really important, is that realistic objectives leads into seeking tolerable feedback times. And by this I mean when you email them a question or you come and see them about something. For an emailed question, 24-hour response time is usually fairly standard, and but if you're submitting them a draft of your thesis, for example, or within your thesis, don't expect feedback within 2 days or 3 days. It could be 2 weeks, it could be 5 weeks. So make sure you set up tolerable feedback times overall in there. That's always important, because you need to allow time in there for people to respond. This leads into something in here that's probably well, it is extremely important, and that is to have similar research interests with your advisor. And you notice here that I use the heading similar research interests and not exact research interests. The point is you will never find someone with an exact match. And don't worry about that. That's okay. So if you're in the social sciences in here, you're looking at doing, for example, river water management or watershed management. And you could be looking at the Middle Eastern water conflicts between Syria, Turkey, and Iraq, for example, or perhaps out in the U.S. Midwest or in the Great Lakes Basin of Canada, U.S. The geographic location matters little. What you're looking at is the conflict and the broader governance principles behind the process. So think broadly in terms of research interests, and here's what I'm trying to get at and to let you know about. It's more about the bigger principles and the processes behind the scenes than it is about the specific location of something. This is not to say you shouldn't be interested in each other's research. Oh, of course not. I mean, you should have an interest in your potential advisor's research. So when you're looking for someone, do a little research work on them, see what they have published. Do you like the type of work they're doing? Ask them about what they're currently researching and see how you like that type of work. At the same time, your advisor or your potential advisor, when you're talking to them, should have an interest in your research. So let them know about some of your research ideas, broadly speaking, and see how they respond to you in there. So, for example, what's their reaction to your research? How are they? Do they ask you questions about it, or are they vague about it? I mean, try to think about it in terms of do they help you expand on your ideas? Those are all good signs if they do that. If they're really short and abrupt, that's not such a good sign. It could be you just caught them on a bad day, but oftentimes it's just not a good sign in there. So what you're trying to do is to ferret out the type of mutual learning that you can do. So you're going to learn from your advisor, but at the same time your advisor will be learning from you. And this can take into account theory or practical approaches or applications as well. And it brings up related throughout of this in terms of this thread, and you've heard me say that you contact potential advisors, so it is okay to contact a few advisors at the same institution and within the same department, even via email. So you would write into them via email and just ask them some questions about their research, what you're looking at in terms of your own research as well. But just keep in terms of, remember, this is a approach like you would a business. It is a professional relationship. And just inquire about their research and the potential for supervision. You can also contact them by phone, and or if you're in person in the same country or city, and you can go and try and make an appointment with them to discuss their research. One thing I did when I was going into my PhD program, and I know some PhD programs tend to interview candidates, I turned the tables on people, and actually the potential advisor, and the one that I did end up getting, was that I went in and I interviewed him. And we sat down for an afternoon and we talked for a long time about research areas, topics, different things, and I just wanted to get a good feel for what the person was like. If that's a possibility, I would highly recommend that. And that can be done either in person or if you are in different countries. We have webcams now and everything else via the internet computer, so I would take full advantage of that to try to learn more about them as much as possible. And I think it's a good feeling ground or sounding out ground for people. The next item is when you're doing some research and you're about what your advisor has written in the past, what they're currently working on, or your potential advisor, here's what I'm talking about. And as you're talking to them, find out what type of research approach they follow. Is it more a statistical analysis approach or a quantitative approach? That's what I'm driving at. Or is it something that is more into qualitative approaches with surveys and focus groups and items of that nature? That's very important in there. And if you really don't like math, and stay away from an advisor that follows quantitative approaches, go to a qualitative one, and vice versa. There's no point in making yourself struggle through that. Or if you really want to follow a statistical analysis on something, but you don't have the good background in the math or statistics, ask your potential advisor, what additional courses may I have to take in order to be able to do this? And then see if you're still interested. And also ask them, what happens if I can't complete them? So I mean, you're just trying to figure out all the items ahead of time to put you in the best possible position to succeed. One item that I think I can't stress enough is to look for the personality fit overall in here. One is the, probably the best thing is just as you're discussing things with them, as you're emailing them and everything, ask yourself, do you connect with your potential advisor? Is it easy to talk to them? When they answer one of your questions, do they answer it fully? Do you get the information that what you need and what you're thinking of right now? What you're trying to do in all of this process in here is you want to see how they respond to what you have to say in your comments and how they help build on your, not concerns, but your ideas, because that's going to tell you a lot about how approachable they are. So, you know, are they clear? Do they provide examples? Are they willing to clarify matters? Those type of items will tell you directly about how approachable they are, and then you can judge them accordingly. You want them to be able to discuss issues openly and critically. This means both you and your potential advisor. But at the same time, though, keep in mind they have to maintain some sort of a distance. They're not going to be your best bud here or anything like that. They do have to have some type of professional distance here in order to be able to offer constructive criticism on some of your ideas and your work. So keep that in mind as you're going through it. That's all part of the professional relationship is what I'll call it in this process as you work through it. Now, one aspect in here is always financial support, which is always important. Financial support, and there's a few different ways to consider this in here. One is to consider, well, whoever gives me the most money, I'm going to go there. That's possible. I would approach it differently. I would offer to all of you out there is to follow your curiosity. If you follow your curiosity and you're happy with what you're doing and everything else, the money will be found somewhere, somehow, no question. Do ask about financial support, though. I'm not saying that it's not important. It is, but curiosity will lead to money somehow, somewhere. I guarantee it. So when you're talking to your potential advisor, ask them the type of financial support that might be offered to you. And keep in mind that this will vary depending on your, from professor to professor, depending on the orientation of their research. If they're more oriented towards private consulting work, that they may have a little bit less research funding available versus other professors that tend to write more formal grant proposals. So there's a few things in there to keep in mind for you. But I would not consider it the overall deal breaker. It is important, but curiosity should trump it, I think, in my own opinion. Also, when you're working through looking for an advisor, think about future plans. And by that I mean your future plans, but also your potential advisor's future plans in here. And I'll start with your potential advisor's future plans. So here you are coming into your MA or a PhD, and ask your advisor, what are your research and teaching for 1 to 4 years? Because remember, for an MA, you want to finish in 1 year if you're the fast-track MA, or 2 or 3 years if you're the typical thesis MA. PhD, anywhere from 4 years to maybe 5 or 6 years. And ask your advisor, are you planning any research leaves, or an extended leave, or a parental leave? And if so, how will they accommodate you? Maybe there won't be any change or difference, and you'll be able to communicate with them continually and can proceed with your work, which would be great. That's the best case scenario. However, I have known in some cases that when a few colleagues of mine one went on a parental leave and said, no, I'm off for the next 10 months or a year, whatever it was, and you'll just have to wait until I get back. That's not good for you, because then that means that it's going to take you longer to finish and to graduate. So you have to kind of assess that. So do you have something in between to keep you going while you wait for them to finish, or is there some other way of structuring it with them to complete the work with them? So I think it's fair game to ask them, what are your plans? And I mean, can you accommodate me? Can you see me through this program in a typical time frame? So that's a really important question. And also take a look at your future plans in terms of who you try to seek out as a potential advisor. So if you're looking at a PhD and you're going in, the reputation of your advisor may be important here, because their contacts and their reputation is what will play a huge role in you landing a job afterwards, especially if you want to pursue an academic career, so employment with a university. If you're looking at turning your MA or your PhD or your Master's of Science and going to work for a business or a government or a non-governmental organization, then consider your advisor's network of contacts that they have in your particular research area. And you may be thinking, well, how the heck am I going to do that, Dr. Levesque? Well, that's fairly simple, because you stop and you think about, take a look at what groups that your advisor belongs to in terms of committees, community groups, or networked broader regional groups and specific research areas. The more they're involved in these types of regional groupings or broader groupings or community groups, the bigger their network of people is, which means that should translate into more contacts, so a better chance of them finding you a job afterwards. That's all. You're just trying to hedge your bet here. That's all that is all about. And that leaves me with just a couple of quick other items. One is what I call bench strength. And this is just about when you're looking at a potential advisor, that's great. You may settle on one that you think, I think this is going to be great. But then also take a look at who else is in the department that may be able to help. I put this out there simply because people do get sick. I mean, they get ill health, right? I mean, they fall sick, they may need time off, and if that's for an extended time, a year or two, who's going to help you finish in this process? So you need someone else in the department or on the bench, thinking of a team, a soccer team here, or a hockey team or something, someone else on the bench that can say, yeah, I can finish your supervision with you and get you through so that you're still going through in a reasonable period of time. And it also has implications for how you think about your own research topic. So as you sit back, okay, here's a research question that I'd like to do. Try in most cases not to make it too idiosyncratic in case you have to switch advisors. I mean, if you do have to switch advisors and it's really a narrow research topic area, your new research advisor may not know very much about it or not feel comfortable in that research area. Therefore, they will likely ask you to start with a whole new research topic. And all that does means is you may take you an extra year or something like that to get through. So, think of a specific research question, but not too idiosyncratic. I would discuss this with your potential advisor as well. So it's just something to keep in mind. And now, and just to wrap up, this one last item is just what I would call the intangibles here. And let's be real here. I'll be honest with you. There's no advisor that's going to be able to meet all of your expectations. So just be reasonable in what you will expect and what you want. And you should consider the items that I just reviewed in terms of the level and type of supervision, similarity in research interest, research methods, the personality fit, which is huge, financial support, your future plans, bench strength. Once you've done all of that and you put it all together and you kind of analyze it, you've got to make a call, a judgment call. And I would argue with you or advise you to trust what I call your gut feeling in here. It is rarely wrong. It will serve you right, and go with that, and I think you'll have a very successful, productive, and hopefully a curiosity-driven career.